I got to introduce Terran McGinnis to Troy Blevins. We have an interview in the house. How you doing, Terran?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me, you guys.
So, Terran, now you're an employee of Marineland for almost 20 years. There's a lot of stuff going on down there in Marineland, and have a little bit of news. I think I broke it to you. There was supposed to be a court date on Monday the 3rd. That has been moved to the 10th.
All right.
So it's going to draw out the
Hot
story
off the presses.
little bit longer.
Okay.
But it's come down to a battle of two groups. But your role at Marineland is what we really want to talk about, and how we can save those beautiful animals and the culture of Marineland in our area. I mean, because even though I think Marineland's technically might be in the 386 because it's just over
the border.
Yeah,
but it has a 904 phone number.
It does.
It does.
And the mailing address is St. Augustine.
Yeah.
It's very complicated.
Very complicated.
We've got a 904 phone number and a mailing address at St. Augustine. I think we just need to move the line.
Then the county line?
Yeah.
Just kind of give a little
St.
wrap
John's
around
County
and just
give it a little hug and just bring it in.
Wrap it around and give it a hug. But your role at Marineland, it was what now? Because it sounds like you had a lot of different roles there over the 20 years, and you are no longer an employee there. You left in June, but you know more about Marineland than anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think as anybody who's at a company for a long time, you wear a lot of hats, you know. Over the time, you just take on more and more responsibilities. But my main ones, I was the education director and I was the historian.
Okay. So being the historian, and that
was a great job.
That's my love too on the history side. So it started in 1938.
It did.
I remember going there as a kid, and
on opening day.
Yeah. I was there. I ribbon cut. Do I have the ribbon? In my back pocket. But it's always like a treat for us. I grew up in DeLand, but it was always a little bit challenging to get to, and I think that's always been a challenge of Marineland, of drawing people there.
Well, I think it's one of the best things about Marineland is that it's in this sort of sweet, quiet, relatively undeveloped stretch of A1A, and that makes it so pretty. But also, you're right. Like, even though it's not far, really, people in St. Augustine think it's kind of far. People in Palm Coast think it's kind of far. Yeah. Apparently, people in DeLand think it's kind of far. It's really not. It's right in the middle of everything, but it's not in the heart of the city, which when you go there, you really appreciate that. That you really feel a little bit of old Florida. Certainly, the ocean is the most dominant feature there. It's not like all the surrounding cities, but it's not far from them either.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things when we talk about history is, and a lot of people, the U-boat sight tower that they have there. Yeah. So at Marineland, I don't know if you guys know this, and I'll let you explain a little bit more about that, but I think that's one of the coolest things, that touches on history outside of
Marineland's own history. Yeah, so during Marineland opened in 1938, but then when the U.S. entered World War II, the facility closed, and most of the equipment was used for the war effort. Most of the staff left to go join the war. So the only things that were happening on site during the war was combat dog training, shark repellent research for the Navy, and there is this mound that we call it Submarine Hill. It's really just a little hill, but given that this is Florida without much elevation, it's kind of a big hill. And the Florida Coast Guard used it to look for German submarines and saw some from there. Actually found some trying to come ashore. So we do have our own little bit of World War II history there, as well as all the other history.
Because I don't think a lot of people realize the Coast Guard moved into the Ponce Hotel, and that's where its southern headquarters was, which is now Flagler College.
Right.
So the Coast Guard had a huge presence here during World War II, and there was a U-boat that sank a cargo ship right off the St. Augustine Pier, and you could see it burning from the hotels that were there where the dance company is. That used to be one of the hotels that was built during the Depression.
Okay.
So when I see that, I was like, oh my gosh, all that kind of connected.
Together, huh?
So that was kind of the southern end of that connection with the Coast Guard. So,
well, Submarine Hill is still used for spotting something.
Yes,
right,
yes,
rails,
yeah, right. We've moved on to more peaceful travelers down our coast. Yeah. So yeah, now the Marineland Right Whale Project uses that to look for the right whales as they come down this winter. Within the next month or two, they'll be arriving.
Is that the longest research conservation project that has happened on Marineland?
Yeah, well, the Marineland Right Whale Project isn't part. It's named that because it's in the town of Marineland. So they use the Marineland Dolphin Adventure property, but it's not a conservation effort that's hosted by the facility. It's hosted by the town.
It's a
complicated
partnership sharing land. Yes.
Okay. But I mean, the staff gets very excited when those whales arrive. Everything stops, right?
Oh my word!
There's a whale.
My boss at the time when I was a trainer, and we had dolphins in the old habitats and the new habitats. And so we were having to, carry buckets from the brand new fish kitchen along the seawall. The way you walk to enter the habitat now, that's the path we would take to feed the dolphins in the old habitats that hadn't been moved yet. And right whales pop up on that walk one day. And we're all mesmerized. There's right whales and there's giant manta rays.
Yes.
And they're interacting. The right whales are breaching and they're tail slapping, and the manta rays are kind of porpoising with one side. And it was amazing. And we're mesmerized and we're watching. And my boss is like, dolphins over here. We got to focus over here. We're doing something here. These animals are cool too. And we're like, right whale.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Did they have a baby with them? It's even cooler when the baby.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, if they're down here, they should. That's what they're coming down here for.
That is what they're coming down here for. Yeah. So I didn't see a baby, but I saw manta rays.
So they were still heading south.
Yeah, they were. Okay. They were heading south.
When they're heading north, they usually have the baby.
Yeah, they were heading south.
When they have the baby, because normally they give birth right around the Florida-Georgia border. So by the time they're here, they should have babies too.
Oh, they should have already have the babies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, very new babies.
Yeah, and I've only seen them off of the pier. I've never seen them at St. Augustine Pier.
Okay.
But I've only seen them off the pier at Flagler.
Flagler. That is probably the prime spot to see them. Flagler County is good right whale watching.
Good right whale watching.
Yeah.
So what brought you to Marineland originally? I think you said you started in 2002 or 2000.
I started in 2001, and I came specifically because at that point, it was still the original facility, still the old park that we call it, but there was already a plan in place to build this new facility, this more modern facility that was really going to focus away from dolphin shows, which is what the original park had become famous for, and was now going to move toward more educational dolphin interactive programs. So giving people the opportunity to have a variety of hands-on experience. And I had done that at another facility in California. So I had done the education portion of it. So they needed somebody to take on that programming, how to create the education messaging that was going to go along with the programming. So I was brought across the country for that job, and that was 24 years ago.
Where you say you were brought across the country, where were you coming from?
I was coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I worked at a facility that was called Marine World Africa USA. It's now Six Flags Discovery Kingdom.
Okay.
And I've been there for 7 years.
And it's still an active park there. Yeah. So you've heard a lot of the scuttlebutt and all these things. Tell us about the animals that are still there and how important it is to keep these animals. And I mean, because some of these were born and raised at Marineland, is the way I understand it.
Absolutely.
So can you explain why that's so valuable to keep them in that location and the safety of those animals?
Yeah. So there are dolphins, but there's also reptiles. We've got tortoises and sea turtles and terrapin, snakes, and then we've got countless fish, over 1,000 fish and coral species and marine invertebrates. So it's not just the dolphins. There are so many animals living there, all of whom would be displaced and would need to find new homes if Marineland is not kept as a public aquarium as it is now. And I mean, obviously, we can't ask them. We don't know exactly how that feels to them.
We can ask, but I don't know if they're going to respond.
But I mean, all of us, we were just talking, what big city would you move to if you had to move? And all of us were like, I don't know. I don't want to move. Moving's hard, but I don't like the weather there, but I don't like the food there. And what am I going to, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. It's hard. Moving's hard for anybody,
or a
right?
biologist.
And as you said, a lot of the animals were born there or have lived there for a very, very, very long time. And so they're used to the facility. Different facilities have different personalities. They look different. They sound different. The noises of the traffic and the noises of the people, the lighting, all that can be different if you're moving to, what if they go to an indoor facility? What if they go to a a fenced-in lagoon kind of a facility. The training methods might be different. So it's not, I mean, dolphins specifically do get moved around between facilities frequently, and it's always in the best interest of the dolphins. It usually happens because there's a social situation that could be better for them, or a health situation that could be better for them, or a breeding situation that could be better for them. So it's not that it doesn't happen, but in this situation, we know that the bonds that we have between the animals at Marineland are really, really tight, and we can't get a guarantee that we could move all of our animals together. I mean, that would be almost certainly not what would happen. And we can't even get a guarantee that the ones that we know that are particularly bonded would be able to stay together. So there's social reasons, there's physical reasons, there's environmental reasons why it could be really stressful for those guys. And we love them is the other thing. You know, we want to be able to spend the rest of our lives with them also.
Yeah. And when I think of Marineland, I think of dolphins. But I mean, I remember the old eel show and all the other stuff. Yeah. What is the oldest dolphin and the youngest dolphin? I think there's 17 dolphins.
Yeah, so our oldest is Betty, and she's been there since 1973. Okay. And Amanda knows Betty.
Yeah.
And she's part of a very dominant family line. Her daughter is Dazzle, and Dazzle has been a very prolific breeder and has had lots of kiddos there. And everybody, I mean, we have former employees who were there in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And they all have these, great memories, but the ones that were from when she was there and beyond, they always want to come back and want to be able to see Betty. I mean, she really holds a special place. She was back in the old park, she would do the jumping dolphin show, and the guy with the jump master would hold the fist.
I probably saw
so
Betty.
You may have seen her. I mean,
Betty.
everybody saw her, and it's funny, even at her age, she'll still occasionally just bust out those old behaviors. Like they just come to mind, and she has to knock out a show once in a while. So anyway, so we've got a dolphin who's in her 50s, which is really spectacular.
She qualifies for AARP.
She does, yeah. And what's really exciting about her, so, everybody knows we had a dolphin named Nellie, and who lived to be 61 years old, which is just remarkable and is still the oldest dolphin ever born in human care. And Nellie, in her older years, started to lose her eyesight. And the trainers learned how to work with her, because normally to communicate with dolphins, we're using a lot of sign language, basically, right? But if you can't see, that doesn't work. So they were able to take those hand signals and translate them to touch, so that they could still communicate with Nellie. They learned that with Nellie, and now so Betty is benefiting from that, because now this staff, and this is sort of another example of why moving these animals can be so disruptive. This staff knows what works best for all of them, and so they learned from Nellie how to work with a visually impaired dolphin, and Betty is really benefiting from that. And so her transition,
Betty is blind.
She's not blind, but she's got cataracts. Her vision isn't as good as it was. And
my vision was better 30 years
right.
ago.
It happens to the best of us. But there's really, because of the training staff doesn't have very much turnover. So that staff has been there for a long time. And they've learned from each other and from past trainers. And so there's generations of dolphins and there's generations of trainers. And Amanda, there's always those dolphins who really are the ones who train the trainers, right? Sure. I mean, every new trainer comes in and thinks they're training a new behavior, but really they're being trained by the dolphin. And I've done that before. Let me show you how this works. Yeah. So anyway, everybody's learning from each other. And then we've got dolphins, 8 years old, and we've got little Surge, who was born right before Hurricane Matthew. Just not why his name is Surge, which literally a week before Hurricane Matthew hit, which could not have been a scarier time to have a newborn baby, but he did great. He did great, and now he's one of our little success stories. So we've got some younger kids, and then we've got some senior dolphins, and all the way through.
And I got to ask this question because we are on the coast. So when Matthew hits, who stays with the dolphins?
So normally we've got
historically Kevin.
Yes, we've got a ride out team of trainers who are able to stay, and we've got luckily by the time Hurricane Matthew hit, we were in our new facility, which opened in 2006, which was really built to withstand up to a Category 3 hurricane, but it hadn't yet really been tested, right? And Hurricane Matthew, I mean, you guys remember. There was a while when it looked like it was going to be a direct hit there. Sure. And that was really, really scary. And we lucked out. It ended up being better than it could have. But what we learned during that storm was that the facility really was built very well. And other than, superficial damage like fences coming down, the structures that matter, the animal habitats, did great. And the way that the facility is built so that everything sort of slopes a little bit down toward the parking lot meant that all the water that came crashing in from the ocean went down to the parking lot, turned that into a lake. But the animal habitats were fine. Put a bunch of big frozen blocks of fish in there so that depending on how long we were without services, the animals had food to eat. The thing is, underwater is calmer than above water during a storm.
For sure.
And historically, during bad storms, you watch the dolphins and they're kind of looking around like, where is everybody? What's your problem? We're fine under here, and so, being underwater. But I remember we were worried about Surge during that storm. But he had he was such a baby, but he had a good mama. And you know what I remember is
who was his mom?
Roxy. Yeah, Roxy. And
I should be writing down all these names.
I can help you with those.
I can give you all the lists. I remember, he was only a month or a week old when the hurricane hit, and so he was, teeny tiny. And I evacuated, so I was gone for a couple of days before I was able to come back. It looked like he had doubled in size. I think all he did was nurse during that, comfort nursing. And he was like. Like, well, I've had a great couple of days. So the facility did well during that storm, and there's a team that stays on site or close by. In that case, they had to get to a shelter, but luckily we had amazing support from Flagler County, the emergency management team, the firefighting team, who was able to get our staff back there because those roads were not really travelable for quite a while, but they got our team back the next day.
All right. And something I learned yesterday is how healthy the coral is, and other facilities come in and will kind of not really steal, but harvest from our coral and use it someplace else. Talk about the value of that, because I didn't even know that existed until yesterday. So, but that sounds like something that, that needs to be really protected.
Yes, right. Of course, it needs to be protected. And what's neat is there's this whole downstairs aquarium part of Marineland. I think a lot of people just think about the dolphins being there in that part of the facility. But at the very front area, when you first come into Marineland, that's where the sharks and the stingrays and the sea turtle and the tortoises are. And then there's an amazing guided tour that you can take downstairs. And that's where a lot of our fish are and these coral species. And, originally when that aquarium, when we built that, the idea was just to have native species on exhibit. So not coral. And, but a lot of locals who had the idea they wanted to have their own saltwater tanks at home and got all these cool, brightly colored, frequently tropical Pacific species. After so long, these people would realize, man, these tanks are hard to take care of. And they would offer them to us. And we would take it because we didn't want them to, dump them in the ocean here where they weren't native. But we didn't have really an exhibit for them because, again, we were really focused on native species. And finally, we had so many of these donations that we built this whole additional area. And so that's where the tropical Pacific species and these coral are. And it is stunning. It is so beautiful down there. And it really gives us a chance to talk about what's happening with coral reefs around the world. So a lot of conservation messaging can happen there, a lot of inspiration, but also a lot of discussing, if you're going to get a pet, make sure you're, really aware of how to take care of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, yes, a lot of partnerships with other facilities. And, coral conservation is a hot topic right now. And not that many places are experts on it, but the folks who are really making an effort to keep the species alive, if necessary, just in labs and aquarium environments until we feel like we have safe habitats in the wild for them.
And I have a love for coral because, like, my getaway is in the British Virgin Islands, and I go to Anegada. In Anegada, where we stay, the largest coral in that region, actually, it might be in the entire area there, is in Anegada. So I have a love for that. And
are you a diver?
I can't because my ears and I can't clear. So
Professional
I can go.
snorkeler.
Snorkeling. That's really all you need,
I
right?
can only go down to about 30 feet. After that, it's like it's 3 weeks of hell.
Oh.
So I can't do it. I would love to, but my body and breaking my nose 3 times just doesn't allow me
but
to
snorkeling
clear.
will get you what you need to see, right?
Yeah. And there it's all in 10 to 12 foot of water, so it's perfect.
You're good, yeah.
But so I mean, I have a love for the coral, and I don't think people understand that Marineland's more than dolphins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And there there's a lot more to this complex problem, and I think that's what the judge saw. Like, hey,
I do
you gave me half a word problem.
Yes.
Now give me the rest of the.
And I'm
the
so
rest of the
grateful to
solution.
her that she really, she realized that she didn't have all the information.
Yes.
Yes. How many animals live there? How many staff members are employed there? And the fact that it's still operating and successful. And what a shame it would be to lose that. And I don't even think she completely understands yet. But the rest of the story, of course, is the history, right? I mean, here in St. Augustine, there's so much history, right? We sort of get tired of hearing, the first this and the first that. But Marineland was the first. It was the world's first oceanarium. It was the world's first underwater film studio. It was where the dolphin signature whistles were discovered. It was really one of the first places to sort of shine a light on the on sea turtle conservation and concerns about overharvesting of sea turtles and sea turtle eggs. It was where the first place where dolphins were successfully bred. And it was where dolphin training was discovered. Up until the late 40s, people absolutely believed that dolphins were not trainable because they thought nothing who lived in the ocean could be trained, because training an animal requires a relationship with that animal, and it requires the ability to communicate with that animal. And everybody back then just thought the ocean, the ocean is scary and mysterious and unknown, and we'll never have relationships with those animals, and we'll never understand them or be able to communicate with them. And then, after about 10 years of Marineland being open, the staff started to say, I kind of think I do have a relationship. I think we are communicating. And so they brought in a fourth generation circus animal trainer, actually from Germany, and gave him a 1-year contract and said, see what you can do. See if you think a dolphin can be trained. And he took the job, but he was even pretty sure he was going to prove that, nope, they can't be trained. Yeah. You know how that story ends, right? Yeah. Now, all around the world, you've got these amazing trained dolphins, and it's all because of Marineland. And so those things I just mentioned, that's just the marine science history. But firsts in the world of architecture, right? Nothing had been built that could hold that much water before. Filmmaking, Clint Eastwood's first movie was there. And Florida tourism, it was within just a couple years of being open, it was the #1 tourist attraction in Florida. Marineland is important in a lot of ways, and the loss, and here's the really great thing, is that over these years, they kept everything. We have every document, every HR document, every internal memo, every external communication, every laboratory note, every animal record, all the science equipment, all the old underwater cameras, all the movie scripts from movies that were made there. They have it all. What happens if that facility goes away? Like, Marineland is itself a museum, as well as, an amazing public display facility for animals, but it's a historic site. And it's a museum, and we need to keep telling the stories. It would be more than the loss of what it is today. It would be the loss of what it has been for almost 90 years.
So there are things we think are common knowledge that everyone has known forever about dolphins and sea life because of Marineland, because Marineland exists. And that's it's one of the many things that's so special about Marineland. So you did leave in June to start July to start your own company, Wild Lessons. I need to buy a shirt. I haven't bought one yet, but I need to buy a shirt. It's a very cool logo. I love it.
Thanks.
But it's also a very cool concept. Can you talk to us a little bit about
Wild Lessons? Wild Lessons is something I've sort of been dreaming up for a long time. It's an environmental education company, but the goal is really to help our local folks who live around here remember why they love to live here. And obviously, part of the reason might be there's a million music opportunities, right? Oh my goodness. But it's also the nature, right? I mean, there's got to be, for almost everybody here, what we love most about this area is just the access to this gorgeous ocean and the intracoastal and all these rivers around, and the marine life who lives in those habitats. And so my goal is to get people outdoors, having some fun, learning a little bit about nature and about their wild neighbors, and just unplugging a little bit. So So I do a lot of beach walks, guided beach walks. I take folks on board boats and just sort of interpret our local marine environment in a way that's positive. I love sharing positive conservation news and positive stories about animals. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom right now, and certainly when you talk about wildlife and conservation, it can go to a dark place. My goal is really not to do that, but just to help people fall back in love with nature. So that's what I'm wanting to do with the folks who live here. And then for the folks who are visiting, I think it's important that they know what they're likely to see. And St. Augustine isn't just, the nice hotel you may be staying in or the great meal you have. Or,
but that is very important.
Or, yes, right, those things are important as well. And it's also
but not only that.
It's also not just, the history of, battles and all of our old history here.
Again, doom and gloom.
But it's also the nature. So I'm really wanting the folks who come to visit, they're going to go to the beach, so they should know who they're meeting out there. And if it's the summertime, they're very likely to see sea turtle nests. So let's tell them about that. If it's the winter, they're almost certainly going to see a North Atlantic right whale, the world's most endangered whale, with their newborn babies. Let's talk about that. Yep. And year round, they're going to see dolphins. So really sort of introducing visitors to our wildlife here. And then I love doing presentations at schools and at libraries and at community centers. So indoor education, outdoor education, formal, not so formal, but just really reminding people how special the natural world is.
Awesome. That's very cool. I know in the past that you have done sails with the schooner Freedom.
Yeah.
Is that going to continue?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
In fact, I've got one in a couple weeks. So
cool.
I do them one Friday a month between March and November. So if you go onto my website, which is wildlessons.net, you can see all the programs I'm doing. If you go to the Schooner Freedom website and you look for the program called Fins and Freedom, that's the sail that has me. It has a naturalist on board to talk about the critters that we see. And it's a very rare occasion that we don't see dolphins. They're there year round in the
there
intercoastal.
Are so many
that's home.
residents
so
in the intercoastal,
so it's cool and it's a great place to teach on board a boat. It's a cool vibe. We're very chill and that's a wonderful program.
So the last one is coming up.
Yeah, the last one's coming up, right?
Okay,
and
last
then,
one of the season.
Yeah, then it gets kind of chilly on the water. It also gets dark really early, and the focus is really seeing the beautiful, nights of lights downtown when you're on the water. So I have one more in November, and then not again until the spring.
Okay.
Yeah. See, and my office is one of my offices. Too many. Is in the Treasury building.
Yeah.
So I'm lined up right where the dolphins will come in at low tide and feed, and seeing them work as a team is so cool.
I'm just learning this now. Come on.
It is so cool. Like I literally will be working, and then I'll be like, "Oh, dolphin," and then I'm like, "Okay, I don't know how long I was watching them." So I could lose an hour like that just watching.
It's funny.
Just watching them work as a team.
She can vouch. So you were saying that you were getting ready to go feed dolphins, but you guys got distracted by rays and right whales. Still to this day at Marineland, they'll be the trainers will be working with their dolphins right here, this close, and then we see wild dolphins, and the whole world has to stop here because, oh my gosh, look, there's dolphins out there. So I think you're not the only one who gets distracted, even folks who see them every day.
Funny story about that. In the old habitats, there was a shark habitat that was connected to the circular oceanarium where the jumping show that Betty was involved with was housed under the big blue arches. And so at lunch, if we packed our lunches, then our favorite spot to have lunch was on the roof of the shark tank. So you could access it through a special gate we knew about. So we'd go out and we'd have lunch on the shark tank roof. And that's because at that time of day, dolphins would be surfing. So some of our friends would also be surfing because some of our coworkers did surf. So our friends would be surfing and we'd laugh that they kept falling down. And then the dolphins would be surfing. And we're just sitting there like eating our pub sub, watching the dolphins surf. And we'd be late from lunch. They're like, "What kept you?" It's like, there's a pond of dolphins. And again, there's dolphins right here. Every time.
Yeah.
So, and but I mean, it's just, I mean, that's why, we're not moving to a big city, by the way. None of us, we all took a vote. None of us are moving to a big city. Yep. But, dolphins are just special. You're a Floridian, I'm a Floridian, and you came from the coast. Yeah. Lakes of Floridian, so all of us have that water in us, and they're just special to all of us. So I mean, it's kind of heartbreaking what we're going through right now, and still don't know how it's going to shake out.
Can I add a little bit to that?
Yeah.
We love dolphins, obviously, as you were saying, but that wasn't always the case. You know, and when Marineland opened in 1938, this was way before the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and people were pretty fearful about the oceans and ocean animals, and dolphins were absolutely seen as just pests who stole fish from fishermen, and they were competition, and so they were frequently shot on sight. And nowadays, that's sort of hard to imagine. It's also hard to imagine, hunting for sea turtles, but that was happening as well. And it was really because of Marineland giving people this opportunity to see these animals up close in a way that wasn't threatening, wasn't scary, but people could look through those porthole windows and watch a mom dolphin nursing her baby. And then when the jumping dolphin show started, they could watch them being these amazing acrobats. And then when the staff learned how to train dolphins and there was a show, so there was a full-on performance, people went from, we're scared of them and we should shoot them, to, oh my gosh, they're so cute, to, whoa, they're amazing, to, oh, they're so smart. And now where we are now, where people just want to get in the water with them to love on them. And that progression, we wouldn't be where we are now, where all of us are telling these stories about how much we love dolphins. We wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Marineland. Yeah. And that's another really important part of this whole story is, most people nowadays don't remember a time when dolphins weren't as idolized as they are now, but that time did exist.
Dolphins were hated. They were a nuisance species, and they were absolutely killed on sight because they were competition for fish, and fishermen didn't want to deal with them destroying their nets, didn't want to deal with them stealing their catch, and so 100%.
And the other thing is, if you look at when did laws like the Marine Mammal Protection Act, the Endangered Species Act, when did those come into place? It was in the 1970s. So Marineland opens in 1938. Little kids get to see these animals. Those kids grow up and become voting adults. And what kind of laws do they vote for? These laws that protect animals, right? It was that generation that first started to be exposed to zoos and aquariums, and that matters.
So the show Flipper came out in the 60s, early 60s, I think, or maybe mid 60s. How much did that do changing the dynamic of Marineland? Because I could see that kind of probably made more kids fall in love with it and made it more right in front of everyone's face, not just people that are close to Marineland. And now it's we got to go there now, because that's where we're going to see this. And that's well before SeaWorld opened, and I could see that being a big boost for Marineland and dolphin experiences.
Yeah, I'm sure that it was. I mean, Marineland was already pretty firmly on the map by that point. But you're right. I think once you start getting dolphins in the media, and then even if you're living in, Montana or, Utah, now you can see dolphins as well. So you're right. I mean, obviously it starts with the people who get to fall in love with the dolphins in person. And then shows like Flipper, but also all the movies that were made at Marineland and newsreels and commercials that exposed a much broader percentage of the country to dolphins, and now more people were falling in love. So
Timex did an ad campaign with Marineland, and Nellie was in there.
Nellie was the star because this was the whole beginning of the takes a licking and keeps
on ticking.
And specifically they were debuting their new waterproof watch, and so Nellie got to they took the watch and they put it around this pipe, and they gave the pipe to Nellie, and she dove with it and swam with it, and gave it a licking and brought it back, and then they held the microphone up and went tick 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 tick.
Keeps on ticking.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny. She was the star.
But I remember the high jumping feeding show when I was a kid. That was one that really stuck out. And then when I got into Parks and Recreation, I ran all the summer program in DeLand before I came up here, and then I ran all the summer programs here. And I was like, okay, we're going to Marineland, and then everything else was scheduled around that. But I mean, that was always on the list of
so many summer programs and field trips, school field trips, and family vacations. It wasn't unintentional that Marineland was built right on A1A, right? Because even though the business model was to be a film studio, they weren't going to turn down tourism. And so the fact that back in 1938, US 1 and Highway 95 hadn't been built yet, and A1A was the only road through town, that was not unintentional. And everybody came by. Education programs, families, everybody.
When it was built, it was the main drag.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was. And obviously, talking about Marineland being an underwater film studio as it's the first business model. They did originally want to build it out closer to Hollywood. That would have made more sense. But whereas nowadays you can have big, beautiful saltwater aquariums, think SeaWorld Orlando or the Georgia Aquarium in indoor cities because they can make saltwater. Back in the 30s, they couldn't do that. So all the big aquariums had to be on the coast and they had to pull the water directly in from the ocean, which we still do today. And when they looked into doing that on the Pacific coast, Pacific, big wild waves and big cliffs, it was going to be too hard to build what they needed to build there. So they set their sights out here. And in the 30s, Jacksonville, St. Augustine were big players in the filmmaking industry. So it wasn't really second choice. It was still pretty awesome to have a film studio here.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of films, especially the silent films, because it looked like snow the way our beaches were. So you can make it. So there was a lot of, and the wide beaches allowed for race car driving, a lot of adventure stuff. So there was a big history in movies.
But you just mentioned another aspect of why it's so important to keep these dolphins here, because they're used to being in natural seawater.
Yes.
And not all of the options for where they could go are natural seawater. So you have animals that have only ever lived in natural seawater that suddenly might be in a facility with artificial seawater. And that is a difference.
It's a change, right? And again, we don't know. We don't know is the main thing. We don't know where they would go to or how that transport would go or what that new home would be like. The one thing we know is it will be different, right?
Yeah. Right. For sure.
Yeah, and some of the things that I saw was like, okay, you got 90 days. 90 days is not enough.
It's not enough for 17
90 days is not enough really to even like move your own family, let alone
move 1,200-ish species.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and how does this, I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the coral thing, but it's so fragile.
It is fragile.
It is very
It's
fragile.
so fragile.
You're right.
Life
do you
usually
maintain
finds
that?
a way, but that's such a fragile life form.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of running out of time.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to get out there to the public and plug your business too?
Yeah, thanks.
This is free advertisement.
Yeah, really, first for Marineland, a couple things. I guess I would like to say, if, for folks who really are sort of invested and hopeful to keep Marineland around, like you just said, we now have about a week and a half left before the next court date. There's a GoFundMe link that I believe I shared, and that will help pay for legal fees for all the work that's happening. But also, can you imagine what it's like to work at Marineland right now with all the rumors that are swirling around, and then all the things that are not rumors that we know are true, that this might, for that staff that has worked there for so long, who love those animals so much, who love their jobs so much, to know that it could be ending, go visit, right? The park is still open. It's closed Sundays and Mondays. Mondays and Tuesdays. Yeah. And it's open Wednesday through Sunday. Go. Have fun. It's gorgeous. What a great time to go. It's not sweltering hot. It's not that crowded. The staff needs your love and your positivity. So that's one thing I want to say, the donation link and just going to visit. But regardless of what happens, I would also say just keep telling these stories, right? If you have personal memories of Marineland, keep those alive, because we don't know what's going to happen, and we can't let the next generation forget what was here. And then, I'm Wild Lessons, wildlessons.net. If you want any kind of environmental education, this is a little baby company. It's brand new, so I'm willing to do all kinds of stuff. If you're a homeschool family, if you're, a group that's coming here for a family reunion, you want something cool to do, if you want a formal presentation, if you want a silly presentation, I'm down with all of it. Wildlessons.net.
Very cool.